These are all the games that will be played in this year's World Cup. And these are the games that will actually have stakes. Or at least that's what data tells us. Because FIFA made the World Cup bigger than ever. More teams, more games, more storylines, right? Well, it's actually the opposite. Because math says something worrying. In 2026, even your nation or the best teams in the entire tournament could walk onto the pitch of a World Cup game where the result genuinely doesn't matter. Not to them, not to anyone. And it won't be a one-off, it could be the norm. Before diving into the actual analysis of the World Cup games, we need to first understand what changed in the World Cup format. For nearly 30 years, the World Cup looked the same. An entire generation of fans watched the same tournament. 32 teams, 8 groups of 4 with the best 2 from each group advancing, and a total of 64 matches that lasted roughly 30 days. That simple structure created some of the best memories. Every single game carried weight. One bad result could end your entire tournament. The drama was unmatched. But now, in 2026, that's gone. For the first time ever, there will be 48 teams, 12 groups of 4, and a total of 104 matches. But the biggest structural change is that instead of the usual 2 teams advancing, now 8 of the best third places advance too. But why did they do it? And more importantly, how does it ruin the entire tournament? Well, instead of 50% of the teams advancing into the knockout stages, now 66% of the teams do. Let that sink in. Out of 12 third places, 8 of them survive, which means qualifying no longer requires you to be good. It just requires you not to be terrible. A team can now lose its first 2 games and still advance. A team can go without winning and still advance. That weight that every game carried is basically completely gone. The cost of losing a game collapses, and when the cost collapses, so does the reason to try. For example, let's look at Group K. Portugal and Colombia look like the clear favorites, so normally Uzbekistan and Congo would need to play their best possible football against the 2 group favorites to at least hope that they can make an upset and make it through. But now, there is no need for that. They can comfortably lose their games against Portugal and Colombia and just battle it out between them. So basically, we are left with only 2 games with actual stakes from this group instead of 6. To put that in perspective, let's take a look at Portugal group from the 2018 World Cup. From the looks of it, Spain and Portugal are the clear favorites, but Iran beat Morocco in the opening game. 3 points on the board. They are basically already through. Not at all. Because with that 3rd place qualification removed, this meant almost nothing. To actually qualify, Iran still needed 2 points from the last 2 matches. And despite fighting really well against Portugal, they still fell short, losing to Spain 1-0. But from the neutral perspective, it was incredible. The scenarios that Ronaldo's team will get grouped by Iran had everyone watching the final match day. And the same happened to Belgium, Germany, Mexico, and so on. But now, coming back to our days, all these teams would have made it through. Which means all those tense last matchday games would be completely gone. Because no matter what the result was, the nations that made it through were the same. Now, you might say that nothing will change, and the teams will play their best either way, because the higher you finish in the groups, the easier path you have. And while that could be the case, I think it's really unlikely, because we have the perfect example in Euro 2016. It was the first ever Euro to adopt the 3rd place system, same logic but at a lower scale. 24 teams, best 3rd advancing. And the result, not only did we get a big decrease in group stage goals, with an average goals per game below 2, comparing to the previous being 2.5, but we got a lot of pointless matches where you could almost feel like both teams were settling for a result. Well, to understand this, I think the perfect example is this group from the most recent Euro. 4 teams, all on equal points, going into a crazy last match day, a scenario we rarely see in a tournament at this level. So basically, both games are going to be all to play for. Whoever wins makes it through. Well, because of that third place, Romania and Slovakia could easily settle for a draw, which secures them guaranteed qualification, while Ukraine could play for a draw in the hope that one of Romania and Slovakia will lose their game. So if you made a mistake and watched the games, in the 90 minutes across both games there were a total of 2 goals. And very unsurprisingly, both games ended in a draw. But now, imagine if that third place was gone. Slovakia would be guaranteed elimination if they didn't beat Romania, while Ukraine would be in the same situation. Imagine the nerves in both games, knowing that if you don't win those 90 minutes, those are your last 90 minutes in the entire tournament. We could have potentially a historical day. So in the end, I think it's safe to say that our experience is the one that suffers the most. But wait, what if the stakes are not gone? What if they are just changing into who's finishing higher instead of who's making it through? Well, teams seem not to really care about it. And the perfect example is actually the winners of the first Euro, with the new system introduced, which won only one match in the first 90 minutes in the entire tournament. And the examples of group winners who got very difficult draws are endless. So that point is not really standing the historical proof. Now, not only the drama suffers from the new format, it's the legacies themselves. Well, think about the best players of our generation. Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, Suarez, they all have insane careers and their World Cup stats are very good for today's standards. But now, with more group, more low-stakes matches where the defense is already mentally checked out and easier overall opponents, a striker you've barely heard of could soon have insane numbers, climbing up the all-time rankings, not because he's better than all those legends, but because the new format handed him more chances against weaker opposition, and one day we could look back and wonder if all those icons of the games were maybe overrated. But that really begs the question, why did they do it? Why did FIFA knowingly ruin their biggest tournament? Well, for that, let's follow the money. Wait, these videos take days of hard researching and editing. If you want to help us deliver more videos like this, make sure to leave a comment on who's your underdog this tournament. It really helps the algorithm understand that you want to see more videos. Now, let's get back to the money. Qatar 2022 generated a little less than $7 billion. The 2026 World Cup is projected to generate almost $9 billion. And the full 2023-2026 cycle, including the qualifiers and the entire commercial cycle, targets around $13 billion. The largest single edition increase in the tournament's history. So I think you could already see it. From their perspective, this new format is a success, their biggest success in the tournament history. The 2026 World Cup has more matches than ever, which means more tickets, more sponsors, more broadcast hours, and more money. And here's the truth, FIFA sees the money, not the football. For them, more money means a better tournament. Better games are for sure nice, but for them, those mean nothing. Here's the line that says it all. When FIFA announced the expansion, they projected roughly $1 billion in extra income at the same time. That's not the side effect, that's the goal. Football was secondary. They promised us many things, such as the World Cup being a game for everyone. But again, it feels like that's clearly not the case. So let's say I want to attend a random game, like Germany versus the Ivory Coast. 750 euros after taxes, which is already a lot. Next, for accommodation, transport and food, it brings you well over $1,000. And that's excluding the flights to America. So with that example, I think FIFA made it clear to all of us that the whole World Cup is for fans was just a big marketing scheme. That shows how FIFA doesn't care at all about fans or football, and how for them the game itself is just a secondary thing. So is the World Cup dead? Maybe not. Maybe the World Cup is just experiencing a change. Yes, the decision was clearly financial. Yes, the math is worrying, but sometimes these new formats can surprise us. Even Euro 2016, it gave us Iceland, it gave us Wales in the semi, even the winner itself, a winner that almost nobody predicts. So maybe just by trying to make more money and opening the doors to all those small nations, imagine how iconic some of the upsets are going to be. Imagine all the records that will be broken due to the extra match. FIFA created storylines that the old, tighter format never could have. Maybe we will see an underdog team that we will all collectively love. Maybe that's going to be Curaçao. Maybe it's going to be Uzbekistan. One thing is for certain, FIFA broke one thing in changing the format. But it's possible that they build another way of magic. I guess we won't know until the whistle blows.